Hello, Barry. Are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing Graham?
Not too bad.
Patrick.
That's Patrick there. Patrick's my podcasting cohort.
Barry, how are you going?
All right, thank you. It's very hot here.
My youngest daughter, who's 21, she moved to London about 2 weeks ago. Oh, no, sorry, 2 months ago. And she's been telling me how warm it is over there. The weather's been wonderful. So,
well, we're not set up to deal with it, so everything's good.
Are you in London at the moment, Barry?
Down in Gloucestershire.
Okay.
Yep. I live in Stroud in Gloucestershire. But I'm in London quite a lot. I've still got a flat there.
What's the maximum expected temperature for Gloucestershire?
I think we got, yesterday was 32, I think. But I think we're down into the late 20s this week.
Yep.
And it's going to rain in a couple of days as well.
So is that good? Will that be a cool change?
Oh, fuck yeah. Quite.
Okay, so it won't be like
I'm a creature of the damp north, of the humid north.
Okay, but it won't be like some kind of tropical rainstorm where it's like 35 degrees and it's sticky for a fortnight.
No. We're going for a good, straightforward English wetness.
Barry, just to kick us off, I was wondering if I could sneak in just one XTC question, if you'll bear with me.
Hey, ask me an XTC question. I love it.
I promise we'll go straight into Shriekback. So XTC for me was this wonderful marriage of the energy and brashness of the punk movement with obviously the pop sensibilities of a previous era. Were you guys aware of how XTC were both kind of outliers of this musical movement, but also intrinsically a part of it? Because when you guys were on our radar in Australia, the country took to XTC in a big way, as in a part of that wave of British bands that came through.
Right.
But you were also, apart from being a part of that movement, you were also very different to what was going on. Were you guys aware of that at all?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was a lot of XTC's success. I think, like as with most bands, really came from just being at the right place at the right time, and there was a sense of because we were playing like lots of actual punk clubs, and we were, although we were definitely, as you say, kind of quite different to your average punk rocker. We said there was a genre known as Ramalama Dolcu. I don't know if you've...
That's a new one on us, I think, Barry.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Ramalama Dolcu. Yeah, so all of these bands who couldn't play very well, but were totally the spirit of punk and singing about life on the dole and how the system is iniquitous and needs to be at least gobbed at. And played incredibly fast guitars, and really, while it was a sort of breath of fresh air, or I thought it was, I don't think the rest of XTC didn't so much. I thought it was a breath of fresh air, coming as it did after the sort of the flatulent 70s and all these rock bands with long guitar solos and long hair, and so I thought it was a great thing, and I was definitely an ally of the punk movement if I wasn't a punk myself.
Yeah.
And, you could see that the Ramalama Dolcu genre was definitely going to be of a limited kind of shelf life, really, because it was such a limited thing, and people like proper dancing and actual melodies and all that nice stuff, and the people started to miss it, I think. And so there was a whole gang of people out there who were not getting their wild years. They weren't getting their, because they couldn't go down and see the Drones or Chelsea because, it's just horrible and it's violent and everybody gobs at you and it's frightening. So XTC came along, and we had short hair and narrow trousers. And we did have melodies and stuff that you couldn't get sort of too angry about. Sang songs about.
Well, it was the melodies and everything that really took me in, which is why it's so unusual that when we eventually saw Shriekback, the music all of a sudden went away from the 3-minute pop song, And all of a sudden, you guys were very tribal and funky. And what was the catalyst that said to you, okay, no more traditional pop songs. We want to be rhythmic and tribal and percussive. Like how did that change happen?
Yeah, well, I think what happened was I was still finding my feet musically, finding my own sort of language really in XTC. And so I was very much joining in with what the established order was within that band, which was, as you say, the very song-driven kind of the 60s sort of thing. And after I was living at home with my parents still at the time, and after I left XTC, I decided to move to London. And just spent a couple of years kind of marinating in all the other things that were going on in the world of music, especially post-punk. And one of two I think genres that immediately appealed to me. Now I was being exposed to them in the big city. One was funk. And this idea that I'd always felt sort of uncomfortable with the kind of fizzliness of. I listened to Cross Wires yesterday.
Oh yes,
it's on a Swindon Viewpoint. We all did it in 77, I suppose. In Swindon, it's just like one camera and all in black and white. And it's kind of fucking hell. It's such a little pointy weird thing.
It was wonderful. I loved it.
It's great. But you could see how if you're playing that sort of thing every night, how the idea of this is just one chord and it goes all the way through and it's got this lovely groove and you can dance to it. It's kind of there's something kind of feels kind of wholesome and not so frenetic and not so ultimately quite irritating. So there was funk, but then there was also reggae. And particularly dub reggae, which I had a sort of epiphany with in a big dance hall where they played a roadie who was a big reggae fan, played some Lee Scratch Perry stuff. It was with XTC at the Electric Circus in Manchester. And suddenly I heard that music as it's meant to be heard, of course, on a big system with huge bass speakers. And so this whole way of looking at music, of being kind of immersed in it, and that particular perspective of production, just a light went on in my head, really. I was just, that's the shit I want to make. And it's all downhill from there, really.
So was there a magic moment in the first Shriekback rehearsal when it all clicked and you thought, wow, this isn't like Gang of Four, this isn't like XTC, this is something absolutely new and exciting and it could go in any direction we want to?
It took a while, actually, to sort of bed down. It was because before Shriekback, after XTC and before Shriekback, I formed a band called Restaurant for Dogs, which very much the sort of R&D lab for what would become Shriekback.
Yeah,
and so it was very much me trying to force this aesthetic on everybody in Shriekback, who, to be honest, was sort of gathered together randomly out of Dave Allen's phone book. So it wasn't really like anybody had a clue what they were doing. Right. So they were my natural prey. As I can force my concept down your throats then, and it took a while to kind of, as I say, be digested. But it was really on the second album, not the first, the Care album, with the sort of thing people had left. We'd sort of got to know each other a bit better and listened to each other's music and gone out and, been to clubs and just generally sort of marinated in the world of 1980s London. And suddenly that reached a point, and I guess also we got kind of serious about it. It was just like, we are doing this, we're trying to do this for a living, aren't we? can we just stop getting fucked up all the time in the studio and making nonsense and just try and get good at this. So that, and on that second album, Care, something that I liked did go on. That was really a kind of, oh yeah, this can work, can't it? There was a kind of freeing, a sense of sort of playfulness, I guess, but also taking it seriously, sort of daring to take it seriously. And the aesthetic kind of emerged from that.
The Care album feels quite cohesive to me, cinematic, like a film soundtrack, like a kind of a perverse Paris, Texas. It feels very kind of sure of itself, like that it doesn't need to be songs. It can be like, it can drift a little bit from minute to minute, compared to Tench, which I think is fantastically peculiar. And I don't know how you recorded that in the same street, Denmark Street, as Elton John and Vera Lynn and Jimi Hendrix and the Kinks and those kind of people were recording. I think in recording studios in the famous Denmark Street, and you were kind of going berserk with Tench.
It's even stranger than that. In fact, we were using a studio which was very much a sort of character in the first years of Shriekback. KPM Studios, Keith Prowse Music was publishing, because Denmark Street in those days was full of the old, publishers, on music publishers. And they had this basement studio which was surprisingly good, with a surprisingly good engineer. And what they specialised in doing was any of their artists who needed to record a demo, they just go down there and record. So we were in that studio, skipping around, avoiding the schedules of people like Val Doonican. And
wow.
I think Elton John on one occasion, and Max Bygraves,
amazing.
This whole huge roster.
Yeah.
The establishment artists of the 1960s, really, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. And what did Val Doonican and Max Bygraves make of you as you were crossing down the corridor or at the kettle making your tea?
They were no, I think care was taken so that we never ran into each other in any of the shared areas. We did actually one spin-off of that was the guy who we were dealing with, who ran the studio, was also part of the publishing company, came down and said, we're collecting songs from our artists to put forward for the Eurovision Song Contest. And have you got anything we might use? So I wrote this song. We sort of resuscitated the song I did with Restaurant for Dogs called Feeding Time, which was a sort of an exegesis of eating, going into quite a lot of digestive detail.
Right.
Well, a fun tune. I thought it was a bit of an anthem, and about a sort of a culturally legible activity. And he never looked at me in the same way again. So it's not quite what we're looking for, actually, Barry.
Yeah, okay, yeah. How do you go? Yeah, I lost track of Eurovision Song Contest winners in the early 1980s. So that was my next question. So you didn't make it through?
Didn't make it through? No. Their loss.
It sounds like it.
Nil point.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the hallmarks of Shriekback that I really love, since we're talking about your songwriting process, is the repeated chant, which even appears in the new album, which we'll talk about later. And it taught me, like, early on, that the hook of a song didn't have to be like a pop song melody or a guitar line. It could be a repeated chant that can kind of drag you in. My Spine Is the Bass line was a wonderful example of this.
No guts, no blood, no brains and all.
The repeated chant, has this been an arrow in your musical quiver that you've used to great effect? Or how did that come about? Or was that just an organic thing?
A very poetic way of saying it. A quiver.
Yes. Everyone should have a musical quiver, I think.
You got to have a quiver, yeah. For all your arrows. I think, I did have a thing for Gilbert and Sullivan when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And which I still, have, there's a place in my heart. So the idea of the chorus, a group of people who all for some reason seem to be kind of the same. So in Gilbert and Sullivan, you get, it's the House of Lords, and the female chorus is a bunch of fairies. Gondoliers, they're all gondoliers, and they're beef eaters at the Tower of London, and then they're all sort of serving wenches, and so I've always liked that idea of here we are, we're a bunch of people, we all do this, you shout, same thing. So if the songs like Hammerheads and and Shovelheads, actually, all the head songs stick to come from that place. There was a moment at the end of Bowie's Ashes to Ashes, where there's a chant at the end, 2, maybe 3 verses, done a chorus. They're like, just repeat the chorus, then doing that. No, I have a chant. Like, nice little amuse bouche at the.
Was it also an attempt to get away from the 3 chords and the truth sort of classic songwriting kind of for
very much so? Yeah, I mean, particularly in Restaurant for Dogs, I was really like, I really don't want to do another fucking song. I hate them. And so maybe threw quite a lot of babies out with that particular bubble.
Yeah.
Perhaps by the time we got to Shriekback, I'd sort of reined that impulse in a little bit. The songs are all right. The songs are not your enemy. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we used to do things in Restaurant for Dogs, like great big sprawling 7-minute things and there's a bit that comes in, another bit, and maybe that repeats itself and maybe it doesn't. And so this whole thing just became, a long sort of amorphous kind of structure, sort of rambling structure, which I still, there's a place in my heart for it. But you have to say there is a reason why songs develop with verses and choruses and because they work, really, don't they? They do sound quite good.
They can do.
Yeah. But at least, they've stood the test of time. But if you don't like them, then come up with something better. Then which is
yeah. Something that Graham and I have been talking about quite a bit recently is your lyrics, these Shriekback lyrics, and just how remarkable they are, and so hard to pin down because you tend to be painting a picture rather than telling a story. And someone like Andy Partridge is a classic storyteller. Whereas your lyrics are so much more impressionistic. They are remarkable.
More like the crazy guy standing in a door on the street corner.
but the intellectual crazy guy. So the amusing crazy guy. Yeah. So don't sell yourself short there, Barry. But also in terms of vocabulary enhancing. So, I mean, from Anacrusis to Parthenogenesis to Coelacanth, I spent weeks rehearsing the pronunciation of that. Ataraxia and Euphraxia on Monument, your new album. It's like you just don't know how to quit when it comes to educating the masses.
Yeah, my mate actually of long standing. He's I sent him the album the other day, and he said, I always have to get the dictionary out. I don't know when you
yeah.
And he said spandrel. You noticed spandrel, which under the radar. Words are just great, aren't they? I like using them. I like how they sound. The sort of variegated thing of meaning that kind of clusters around them and changes, and I just it's one of the true joys of putting together lyrics.
And do you tend to be inspired by the sound of a word or the meaning of a word, or just how the two of them sort of come together? So I mean, a word like Anacrusis, for instance.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of both, isn't it? Really. It's got. I'm a big fan of James Joyce, and
yeah, absolutely.
His big unreadable motherfucker Finnegan's Wake, in which it's just like that's what it is, really, isn't it? It's the you don't get the meaning quite a lot of the time, but then you get the sound of it, and you get this sort of poetry, the lilt, the music of it.
Yeah.
So you got like a word like anacrusis. It's got it sounds like it might be a kind of medical thing, or it's got cruce in it. So is that like a cross? And that makes you think. That makes me think of cormorants, the seabird, because they put their and but then if you it turns out that it is in fact the thing that goes at the beginning of something before things start.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just hugely satisfying, you know.
Yeah, and to continue briefly on the kind of Joycean theme, the kind of colloquial language, or little like common kind of talk as well. So something like there goes a bob or two in relation to kind of someone displaying wealth, or 37 sugars in the old man's tea from the Why This album 2018. So yeah, just that again, that kind of marriage of influences is really kind of
in the same song. There's a reference to 37 sherbets, and the band plays on, and that's an example of what you're talking about, I guess. I do just set myself up as a kind of some kind of aerial for all these things to sort of land on. I did an interview with someone the other day who'd was listening to what was it? Not Designed for Pleasure off the new album, and there's a line in it that goes "Drizzle me skinny," and I just thought, did that come to me in a dream? Did I just think that up? It sounds good, that doesn't it? Drizzle me skinny.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Since the idea is that there's this guy in a kind of hedonistic young people's woohoo kind of disco. And he's this grumpy old fuck who's going, I'm designed for pleasure. Essentially, the idea of he might shout out, drizzle me skinny at some point. So I totally thought I'd invented that. And then this guy, the post-punk monk who writes stuff.
Yeah, he's great.
Online. He is really good. He said he did a bit of research, and did I quote on purpose? It's a Weight Watchers slogan. So it's like, so you're going to, instead of putting mayonnaise on your salad, you're going to have a little bit of light olive oil, and hence you will be drizzled skin. I thought, so that's what happens. You're just trawling words all the time. That's the glorious little serendipity.
Well,
it's magnificent.
While we're on the new album, we jumped ahead a bit, but and while we're talking about lyrics, one thing I've loved about Shriekback is the quieter, more moody songs you guys did, like Hubris and The Big Hush. And on the new album, there's a song that's fast becoming my favorite Shriekback song. It's called Just World Fallacy.
And it's alright, unethical delight. It'll be a good night in the just world.
And which kind of has a harmonica going through it as well, I think.
Lots of them have harmonicas going through it. I've become slightly addicted to...
Okay, is that you playing it, or did you...
No, I wish. Yeah. This is quite impressed. No, they're all samples. I don't know who originally play, all from different sources. I have been slightly addicted to harmonica lately.
Regarding Just World Fallacy, there's a particular line that really resonates, Barry, which is shouting at the algorithm does me good, but it doesn't make the difference that I thought it would. And I don't know whether the meaning of the lyric is what I want the meaning of the lyric to be.
Go on then, what do you think it is?
But shouting at the algorithm, it's like we are bombarded. If there's any word that defines the absolute avalanche of unwanted information these days, it is algorithm. It's like everywhere you turn, the algorithm decides what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling, and you shouting at it is like the human response, and it doesn't make the difference that I thought it would.
Doesn't make any difference.
But
Yeah, so it's totally that, yeah. With perhaps a sort of overtone of my girlfriend sees me wrestling with website-y kind of things and trying to you've got to sign up to this thing to get the thing and the whole. I'm going to sound like a total boomer asshole now, but drives me out the fucking wall.
that's not the only fish, if I'm using the term correctly, or do I mean mammal? If the narwhal being name checked.
I'm gonna manage the narwhal. I'm gonna handle the beast.
I'm not sure whether that's the first reference to narwhals since Rock Lobster.
I was talking about. I did an interview the other day with someone who said, the idiot dancing and the list.
Yeah.
And I said, so you're familiar with Rock Lobster and the 16 dances? Do all 16 dances?
Well, they do all 16 dances.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you listen to it. It's great. It's not very much in the same mode.
Yeah. And,
Collecting 90 dances. Come on.
yeah, and is there any obvious way apart from what I guess the fact that you mentioned algorithms did make me wonder about the extent to which your lyrics have evolved. That if there's any kind of specific way you perceive that your lyrics have evolved, let's say since Shriekback formed, or whether it's a kind of a continuum and you're just soaking in cultural influences and reading Joyce or whatever you might have done on the way through, or whether there's something more.
Yeah, I think I was. We all took a lot of speed in the early days. Me and Carl certainly did.
Yeah.
So there were quite a few things on the first couple of albums that are like absolute stream of consciousness kind of. These guys really need to take a Valium and have a little lie down. Stop ranting so much. So I think we've got, both of us, me and Carl, have got more kind of structured over the years, but I still like to let that that abstract quality in. I think it's probably, I do it more consciously now than I did in the past when it was just letting a kind of let the synapses just flow, and whatever you come up with, it's all good. That's the Brian Eno thing of rather than throwing a dart into the center of the dartboard, you throw a dart at somewhere interesting in the wall, and then you paint the dartboard. That's kind of that little axiom can get you off the hook in your own mind anyway quite a few times. No, I was just doing the dartboard thing, man. I know it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But like Brian told me to.
Yeah. You go, Eno's imprimatur.
I only listened to the new album on YouTube, so I didn't have the benefit of album notes to look at. Are you producing these all yourself? Is this a self-produced?
Yeah, this one is. The last one, Bola Hula, was me working. As I recorded everything in my home studio, and then took it to a pro studio down in Eastbourne. The guy called Christoph Skirl, who's a very talented engineer, and he mixed it pretty much, under my auspices. But this one, I just thought, I'd try doing it myself. How hard can it be, right?
Yeah.
Barry, I've got a couple of quick random questions. One, the final track on Care, In Amongst. Is that a bull roarer that's making that sound, or what's making that sound?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Carl used to back in the taking speed, staying up all night, and having the sort of jobs on the side days. Carl had a job working for a florist in Covent Garden, so he would have to get up at the crack of dawn, and after a livener, he'd go down the West End and there's all these floral displays outside pubs. So they'd go around and sort of deal with this guy's business. Carl worked for him. Who was his speed dealer, actually, thinking about it. So it's it'll just work brilliantly.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, auspicious. So what? So they go around the West End and they just tend to these, hanging baskets and floral displays and what have you. So this gave you a lot of long green garden sticks in the course of this job, which Carl used to, I'm sure, not irritatingly in any way, used to play like little drums on the dashboard of the van as they try.
Yes,
pub and garden, and it makes this sort of kind of noise, and it's quite satisfying. So we used those, the tiny green garden sticks, as they were known. It became like a sort of studio strategy. We would go in there, but mostly play them like little like drums. But then we realised that by whooshing them through the air, that was a pretty good sound as well.
Can I just add, the first time I saw Shriekback was you guys were playing on, I think that was the Riverside Studios.
When we think about them now, the crystal and the pose.
There was a whole lot of people on the stage and they had these sticks. Are they those same sticks?
They are the tiny green garden sticks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Wow. Covent Garden specials.
Continuity there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I brought it back around.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to ruin the continuity by asking you a question regarding your Australian tour of 1987, which I don't know if you remember that. So I think you supported In Excess, is that right? In 1986, which I have many questions about that, but 1987, I myself and Graham and our co-host Mark, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, we all saw you in 1987, and I saw you play in Melbourne at the club when the person next to me, and I was down the front, tried to drag you off stage by the necklace. Does that
grab you by the necklace?
I don't know.
Yeah, I do remember that very well, actually.
Really?
I tried to get the guy thrown out, didn't I? But
yeah. He was.
He went back in again.
Yeah, no, he was thrown out, and his girlfriend wrote an apology on a piece of paper and handed it to you on stage because she was mortified, and she was they were standing right beside me, and I thought I was about to get thrown out, I'm probably this guy's cousin or something, but so I'm glad I didn't imagine that entire episode.
That happened. Surely.
Was that a regular occurrence? Did you think you should wear more modest more modest sort of jewelry, or?
Yeah, it's a whole health and safety issue. It's much slacker in those days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isadora Duncan into the.
You continued to dare to sort of expose yourself to that sort of activity.
I did for a while, didn't I? But I'm really over it now. Not because of the danger, really, because of the embarrassment and boredom of it all. I am occasionally asked, what's the chances of Shriekback touring again? And I'd have to say, after we did a little experimental toe in the water, series of gigs back in 2017 was the last time. It was lots of fun and all that, but I really did feel like, I think it's time to walk away from this now. Feels like a young man's game. You know what I mean?
and the In Excess tour, that must have been quite strange because In Excess were about to explode globally, and they were the biggest band in Australia probably at the time. And just how was all that? Because you had quite an elaborate. Was it the full 1987 tour, sort of like 6 or 7 or 8 people on stage, like the full mega kind of Shriekback experience?
The 8-piece Shriekback band.
Yeah.
It was a curious thing actually, because the year before, or the year I can't actually remember, we did like a double American tour with Simple Minds, who were just about to become like massive.
Yeah.
And then because we got on well with them, and I knew them before, in fact, from when I did the album with Iggy Pop in the same studio, so we sort of made friends then.
Yeah.
So they asked us to do this Scottish gig. So they were returning to Glasgow for the first time in like 2 years as the greatest band in the world.
Yeah.
Let alone the greatest Scottish band in the world. And we were just like, and it seemed like, that would be good fun. But then you realise, especially because the Scottish hate the English so much.
Yeah.
We were up there kind of, hello, we're Shriekback from London. All right. And Jim Kerr's giving it, when you play rock and roll, when you play football, don't do it for yourself, do it for Scotland. Fucking nuts. I think we ought to go home now.
Yeah.
And so it was the same with NXS.
Yeah.
Coming back to Australia for the first time with this bunch of Poms in tow, tumbling around on stage. We were to get on to their sexy, funky beats.
Nice.
Yeah, so on both occasions, it was just like, keep it down to less than 20 minutes.
Right.
Don't talk to anyone. And get out of the building.
Yeah. Just the hit singles, the verse chorus hits.
It's good. Thank you very much. Good night. Enjoy Simple Minds. Enjoy your next time.
So the audiences, you went down okay. I mean, I suppose compared to a rabid Scots audience, you probably would have, but
no, we sort of we worked out how to do it really. I think there was a certain amount of stagecraft.
I'll bet.
You really don't want to feel like you're trying. You don't want to appear like you're trying to blow the main band off. And we're here as an exciting little thing that you can watch before the really important thing, dripping with nationalism and national pride and
absolutely
appears before your eyes. So like I say, it's just be discreet and humble. I said we had a phrase actually. We'll have to be like, because especially with touring with big bands like that, there's a whole kind of dance that goes on with the road crew. You have to be friends with the road crew. Because they can really fuck you up. So microphones move or are not turned on, or if you get on the wrong side of them, and actually, oh no, I didn't have. There's quite a lot of the PA wasn't turned on for your set. I don't know how that happened. So there's this whole thing. So we said before we went on the road with these big bands, is that what we have to adopt is the attitude of the Israelites under Nebuchadnezzar. So we're an enslaved people, but we still have our pride, and we know who we are. Now's not the time to make your move.
That's a very Shriekback.
I know, yeah.
Parallel to draw. I don't think In Excess during their supporting act days would have drawn upon the memory of Nebuchadnezzar.
I know. Such a bunch of suits. Oh, it's great.
Before we leave, I want to bring us back to Monument if we can.
Sure.
And by the way, I also encourage our listeners to have a listen and purchase the new album. It's called Monument by Shriekback, and we will have a link in the description to the band's website where they can purchase it.
In the morning, what's a good time worth?
When I listened to Monument, like the first song, The Curse, I thought that was quite similar to just something from Jam Science, but then as I kept listening to the album, the whole album is really quite diverse and different. Like Ithaca has like a weird 5/4 time signature.
Oh, it's the 5/4. I'm so happy about that.
I'm one of
you are so proud of that.
I'm one of the nerds who will sit there and count it out.
The schemes I might have dreamed or lie in the custom.
So it's something that's quite unique, and I should have asked you this before when asking about your production style, but do you have an overarching plan of how you want the whole album to sound as a unit? Or do you just record every song separately and just go, there they are?
I just trust to, my obsessions at the time that will all, generally speaking, gel as one thing once you put them all together and hope for the best. But no, I certainly don't go for an overarching sort of production style. I just kind of think that will probably happen by itself.
Yeah,
It almost seems to.
Yeah, I guess if you're writing everything at the same time and then recording it you go, oh, I really like that compressor on the vocals. I'll use that on all of them.
Yeah. All that mouth organ sample. Something like that.
I might put that in everything.
I'm sure that's not boring, man.
Well, my sister asked me a question in 1985 or 1986 about a particular lyric of yours, and she looked up to me. She was my younger sister, and she looked up to me as a source of intellectual sort of wisdom. And when she asked me what a particular lyric of yours from Underwater Boys meant, and I couldn't answer her question, I felt a shame that still resonates to this day. And so I'm hoping you can help me. And the lyric is,
"So what I can."
The lyric is, little Nico wasn't happy, and you know where this is going. Little Nico wasn't happy. He felt sick inside. One day he jumped from a window into the arms of a Wagnerian bride, which I think I love Underwater Boys, and I think it's a brilliantly evocative lyric. But yeah, I did wonder whether there was a specific meaning that could be pinned down regarding that.
There is.
Oh, okay.
Very specific, actually.
Yep.
All of the characters in Underwater Boys. So the idea was, I got it from, there's an introduction to the Dum Dum Boys by Iggy Pop.
How about James? He's gone straight.
And there's a spoken intro where he says, he's talking about the old Stooges, his old band, So, how's James? Living with his mother. What about Zeke? OD'd on alcohol. And it's just a list there of whatever happened to the Dum Dum Boys. And I thought, I'd like to do something like that. And so so everyone in that song is a real person.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Names are changed to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
And Little Nick was a friend of mine who was a sort of sickly little character. With greatness within him, though, it must be said. And but then he got into trouble with heroin for quite a while.
Oh, wow!
Which thankfully he got out of, and he's fine. He's doing great now.
Oh,
but so that was the is that a metaphor? I don't know. You're jumping from the window into the arms of Wagnerian brides. Whenever his whole thing with heroin was just sort of, yeah, man, it's just a sort of. Well, it's kind of glamorous and great and awful.
Yeah.
It's this operatic kind of quality to it all that he liked to embrace. He liked to light lots of candles up, and then fix up a load of smack and light around, scratch it.
Wow. Okay, well, I shall text my sister immediately.
Tell sis, yeah. How you know?
I was going to ask you about Mark Tournier, who's from a band called Fluke.
Yes.
You collaborated with him on a song, and it wound up on the album. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Mike is like the main sort of musical force in Fluke, who were a techno band. I think they were on Sony, Virgin, or something. In the mid-90s, because they were Shriekback fans, they asked me to produce an album for them.
Oh, okay.
And it did not go well, really. It was you had Mike Tournier sitting in front of a computer screen, and very hard to produce anyone whose back is to you.
Yeah.
I'm just leaning up. What are you up to now, Mike? Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. That's my production input for the day. So it didn't really work out. So we kind of called it after a little bit. But we went on to, when we did the acoustic band with Shriekback in the mid-90s, sort of teamed up. Then we did this thing on MTV, which was Fluke and Shriekback, Fluke back or whatever we called it. Doing one of their songs, and me and John the singer kind of duetting on this thing, and we had all our ethnic shit lying around, and this tree root with speakers on the top of it called the harming tree, which was a feature of our set at the time. And meanwhile, Fluke with all their electro shit, and it was good fun. You can get it on you can see it on YouTube.
Super intended, super common sense, super data stream, super sweet and clean.
Fluke backwash, Shriekback wash, I think it was called. Something like that. Anyway, years later, Julian, the manager, got in touch and said Fluke hadn't been active for quite a while, but the Mike wanted to get back into doing stuff. John, the singer, was away. Did I fancy kind of stepping in and doing a collaboration with Mike? So we ended up doing a four-track EP called under the name of Anaxaton 6. Mm-hmm. Which is available from the Shriekback website, from shriekback.com. And I thought it was great, actually. I still think some amazing songs. And Mike's production is out of this world. I mean, it really is kind of huge and lurid and glossy, and, just a sort of very modern kind of beauty to it. And then, so we did that. Nothing happened with that at all. I made a couple of videos for it. And then Fluke got back in business, and Julian rang me up again and said, did I want to do some more songs? Because John was now involved, so it was going to be, different singers doing different songs over Mike's backing tracks. And long answer, isn't it? And Mike just, I don't know, it didn't work out anyway. We were like sort of two pandas that they brought together to mate, and it just wasn't happening. Okay. But the first one out the gate was the first panda fuck was the Wasps in Heaven. We were sort of both sort of innocent enough for it just to work, without all a cantankerous old gitness getting in the way. But then it turned out that John, the other singer, had another idea for it, which Mike wanted to go with. So I said, well, if you don't want to use it, then can I have it for the Shriekback album? Because it sounded like it might sit with the other tunes I'd written quite well. And that's how Wasps in Heaven ended up on the album.
Hoopla, hoopla, I don't mind another bin bag full of the unexamined mind. Talk banana, he's a fruity undertaker, shaking all the aspects of the mind maker. So much for gratitude.
Very good.
Wasps in Heaven is great as a song. So it was well worth the agony of whatever you went through.
the elaborate journey. Get to that.
Yeah. So thank you for your pain.
Oh, that's all right. That's famous. I know.
Actually, the last thing I was going to say is that one thing that Graham and Mark and I agreed upon when we devoted an episode to Shriekback a couple of years ago is that in the course of the 7 or 8 years we've been doing the podcast, you guys were probably the band for whom your lack of commercial success was most inexplicable in terms of particular individual songs. Right. It's like, how was there not I think you had a top 40 hit in Australia and a couple of hits in New Zealand, but the absence of a top 40 hit, top 30, top 20, top 10 in the UK, given that. Are
you asking me to lament with you or to explain this?
No, just to say yes at the end of my monologue.
You're absolutely right.
I wouldn't know. Thank you. I'm done. No, actually, the specifically, I suppose, hand on my heart.
Hand on my heart.
Feels like the one that really got away. And I just wonder whether there was something in particular about what radio programmers were thinking that day BBC One or whatever it was, or like, do you have any theories, particularly about Hand on My Heart, and in general, I suppose as well?
No, not really. I don't know. No, I don't. And there's a lot of luck in it, isn't there? Really, where things sort of chime with a particular time and a place in the culture. So I don't know. I always thought Nemesis had a chance of being one of those. Was a Superman hits. And we always used to point at things like "Oh Superman," things like that. Yeah. How is that a number one? I mean, it's a great song. But how come, and when the record company would turn up and go, yeah, well, look at this. We don't hear a single on this album.
Yeah,
I bet you would have said the same to Laurie Anderson if you'd have heard that before it became a hit.
8.5 minutes of "Oh Superman" later, that theory is out the window.
Yeah. So, my short answer is I haven't got a clue.
Yeah. So there wasn't one specific reason. I mean, there was one Australian band, the Reals, who we featured, and one of their singles failed to get airplay because it sounded too much like Funky Town, and it sounded nothing like Funky Town. So I just wondered whether you had a similar Funky Town lament in relation to Hand on My Heart.
No, not with that. I said it used to be a thing that whenever the record company would come down the studio and go, "Oh, like the sound of this," that was known as the Curse of Shriekback. It was thereafter, you were completely inhibited, and then everything became important. You couldn't sort of function artistically anymore. It was all, but the record company said they liked it, so we can't change it at all. I mean,
that's right.
And Faded Flowers was a tune that. The record company go, "Oh, it's a great tune. This is it's just a regular love song, isn't it, really?" And that sounds like a single to me. I said, okay, right. But obviously it's much too sparse at the moment because it was just like keyboards and little rimshot drums and a vocal. And so we ended up schlepping loads of percussion onto it. We had 3 different bass lines, filled up many 4 tracks of shit. And it never sounded quite right. Never sounded quite right. And then the record company said, "Well, it could have been a single, but clearly you fucked it up. We don't trust you. You are a bunch of bastards. We hate you." And so in the end, it got shelved for a bit. And then finally, when we went on to mix Oil and Gold, the album, we had Gavin Killip came along as the young gunslinger who was going to sort of save our bacon. And we said, "Well, here you go. Look at this great big over-egged, stodgy thing, Faded Flowers, with all these overdubs, none of which work properly, and thousands of pounds worth of session musicians so swished down the pan." And Gavin said, "Well, what do you think it should sound like?" He said, "If you could do anything, and if you weren't, worried about whatever it being a single or whatever, all that was." I said, "Well, I think really it should sound like really empty and just sort of just this little rimshot thing, and then just the chords and just a bit of vocal, and that should be it. Really, it's like a sort of sad, broken little sort of glass menagerie of a song. That's what it should be like. That's why all this percussion is unnecessary." Gab, could do that then, and just took all the flavors.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. I said, "Oh, no, that was it, wasn't it? That was it all along. We just weren't sort of brave enough to insist on it in the face of the Curse of Shriekback."
Well, it ended up sounding fantastic, and so the machines that worked no more, to quote from the song, ended up
nice one, yeah. So what you did
ended up working for you in the final mix. So,
beautiful.
I brought it home.
You're a real pro.
You were going somewhere with that, weren't you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm going to have to stop now because that's as good as it's going to get from me, Barry.
Yeah. Just leave on a high, definitely.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Barry. This has been really good. It's been great talking to you.
Right, you too, Graham and Patrick.
Yeah,
thanks so much, Barry.
As you can tell, we were huge fans from day one, and it's been a real honour talking to you.
Yeah, it's been great, guys.
Very so. Thanks so much, Barry. Yeah. It's been a gas for sure. Thanks so much.
Take it easy now.
See you later.
Later.